What in the world is this gait? Someone needs to tell this horse about leads.
Hello, my name is Natalia Evan, and this is Shaman. Today is our lesson on picking up the correct lead for the Red Level 4-H Horse Camp 2022. So let's talk about picking up the correct lead. First of all, what is a lead? A lead is where in a lope or a canter, which is a 3-beat gait of the horse, the inside leg of the horse tracks or leads first. First of all, what is the outside and the inside? Whatever is on the inside of the arena is your inside hand, or your inside leg, or her inside leg. Whatever is on the rail or the outside is your outside hand, your outside leg, or her outside leg. So talking about leads, we want the inside leg to be leading. Now, why do we want it to be leading? Why is this so important? It seems trivial. It's not, especially if you ever get into higher level riding. We lead with the leading leg because that's what provides balance. If we are turning in a circle, we want that inside leg of that circle to be leading.
That's where balance really comes into play.
Now, what is the shape of our horse when we're loping? And I have two names for this, and they're universally called this as well. But the bend of the shape we have is called a half moon or a banana. And it looks literally like this. So we want that nice bend.
Here's a great illustration of your banana shape.
We want a supple bend. Supple means that they're flexible, they're picking up, they're collecting when we want them to. And when they bend, it's always easier to pick up the correct lead. Every single discipline, whether you have English or Western, or you're jumping, or even if you're barrel racing, leads are everywhere. Even on the racetrack, those horses that are galloping, they're relying on leads.
It's also important to keep in mind counter-cantering, which is actually supposed to be the outside leg leading. This is higher level, and you can imagine that it takes a lot of effort to keep your horse balanced and on the outside lead.
Leads are all about being balanced and cadenced and supple in our movement. Oftentimes you might be loping in the arena and you make a wide turn and it feels really, really rough. It might be because you're on the wrong lead and your horse is really off balance. Remember, you are sitting on their kidneys and their spine, so picking up the correct lead is the best thing and your horse. Now let's talk about how we even pick up the correct lead. How we understand a little bit more about our bend and our shape of our horse. You might be thinking, well, how do I bend my horse or shape that horse? I want you to think of your horse like a giant piece of clay. How do you get a nice half moon shape?
This is where leg yielding, leg pressure, and body mechanics come into play.
So if I'm heading on the rail this direction, I want her inside leg to strike up or pick up the correct lead, and that would be her left leg. Now let's think about that piece of clay. I want to get the shape of her rear end bending in, striking up on this leg, and coming up. Keep in mind, the front end is striking up on the inside leg, but don't forget about your back 2 feet. This leg is also leading in the back.
We can actually pretend that my finger here is an inside leg, gently pushing the horse's body to shape it in a bend. If we had 2 fingers like 2 legs, that inside leg, or that finger, is creating that bend and pushing in. And that outside leg, as we'll learn, is going behind and pushing the back end over and in.
If we want to move our hind end in, we need to use our outside leg to push it over. Observe. Boom. This hind end moved in. But what about our front end? Using our inside hand, we want to gently use and bend her head slightly in. We almost want to see the corner of her eye. So in doing this, I am picking up her front end and her head and turning it in, and using my outside leg to push her body in to create that nice bend.
Here's a great view of the inside hand gently scooping to pick up that horse into frame. And here's where correction really comes into play. Pushing that horse onto the bit, collecting them up. Here's the bend we really want to see. And I'm not even using my hands here to shape her. She has learned what to do. Keep in mind this is just the shape we are creating to help them get into frame for the right lead. We can even be straight and still get that nice bend to pick up the correct lead. The horse is not wiggling beneath us back and forth, but maintaining the direction it's going.
You can create this bend from a walk to a trot and to a lope. So even if you're a beginner rider and you're thinking, well, I'm not loping, you can still practice getting your horse to bend and getting your horse to prepare for this movement.
Since we have previously gone over the positions of the leg for controlling the forehand, the middle, and the hind, we can see how we can effectively get our horse's body to bend, move, or achieve anything, especially for leads.
When we want to shift the rear end over to pick up the correct lead, we put our outside leg in third position behind so that we push the hind end part over and in. So again, if we're thinking about that clay, we want to think about bending that horse with our inside leg. To do so, we have this leg right on the girth or in that second position right on the barrel.
Keep in mind that some horses may be trained differently and that when they are asked for lope, they may have a certain cue. However, the basic biomechanics of any equine do not change.
Now let's see this in action. Starting at the walk, going into the trot, and in the lope.
Here you see a walk where I'm slowly using my inside hand, inside leg, and outside leg to get her to bend. Remember, we want to have the goal of getting these cues and aids invisible. Here I am scooping and bending shaman in the jog. Here I dramatically emphasize my inside hand and my outside leg behind the girth to get a correct lead. The goal is to rely less on the use of hands and those kind of cues, but on your seat. Like many Western disciplines, all of your balancing cues come into play. However, horses may need extra support to keep them in frame. Here's a great example of a big paint cross-cantering, meaning he's loping on the right lead in the front and the wrong one in the back. It's very rough and unbalanced. A great view of the back legs tracking properly on the right lead. As you can see, that inside leg is leading. In the Western dressage test, Rainbow is shown here transitioning very nicely onto the correct lead, which is her right lead. Simple changes occur when you trot and pick up the correct lead. Here, we see Rimba performing a flying change, which is where you change leads while going in a continuous motion. Very difficult. All in all, resist the urge to just race around. Be intentional with how you ride in your equitation and mechanics in picking up the correct lead.